Hi guys, it's Kaycee and welcome back to Just Being We, the podcast. It's not really a podcast, but we're just here to have a conversation, right? We're capturing the conversation. So today I wanted to talk about the difference and similarities between inspiration and influence. This has been a topic on my mind for quite some time, actually. It's just such an interesting concept, and I love to hear other people's takes on what they believe are the similarities and differences between it, and also the positives and negatives of both sides. And it's just cool to see how everyone views each of those standpoints, because especially with social media, influence has become so incredibly popular. But sometimes we get lost in the confusion of it all and feel like we always have to be influenced by something in order to make a decision or to find out who we are. But there's a fine line between being influenced by something or being inspired by something. And I wanted to hear from you guys this episode. I thought it was only fitting for the start of the second half of my 8 episodes this season, to include you guys on everything, because I'm doing this for me, but I'm also doing it for you. And it's incredibly important for me to include you guys in on the conversation with myself. And it was really cool to see the responses that I received. So what I ended up doing was literally like 2 days ago or something, I went on my Instagram story and I was like, I want to hear from you. So I wanted to ask you guys to ask me questions, and it didn't necessarily have to be on this topic only. It didn't have to be about inspiration or influence, but I just wanted to hear from you. If you had any questions or anything that you wanted me to bring up during this podcast, or just to talk about in general. And the questions that I received, I was very honored and surprised by the responses, because most of the time when it comes to Q&As, the only questions that I've ever gotten were like about dancing. And this time there was such a diverse group of questions, and it really made me happy, because it meant that what I'm doing is actually doing something for change, and people are starting to be a little bit more interested in me beyond dance, which is so cool. But I am obviously always going to answer the dance questions as well. But since there were so many responses, I literally have like 20 screenshots of these responses. I want to somehow continue to answer your guys' questions as well, but I decided just to choose like a small amount that were kind of a mixture of, based on this topic, inspiration and influence, but also any other questions that were kind of random, but I was like, ooh, I really want to talk about this, or I want to answer it. But what I wanted to start off with was, I asked you guys 2 different questions. I asked you what you think to you is the difference between inspiration versus influence. And everyone who responded was so wise and articulate with their words, and there were a lot of people who agreed, but how they spoke upon it was so inspiring to read. And I got inspired reading it, because everyone is so smart and well-spoken, and everyone kind of has their own way of viewing something. So it's really cool to see everyone's own opinions and be able to kind of discuss that and see what the similarities are between that. So that's the first question that I wanted to dive into. And also I asked you guys, who or what inspires you? And there were some really beautiful responses there as well. sponsored by Evolove. Evolving is loving your hair natural. I got my phone today, so I'm just going to go through all of my screenshots and kind of go with the flow here, and we'll see what comes out. So yeah, the first question. What is the difference between inspiration versus influence? And again, these responses were so incredibly articulate. And the first one was on Instagram, Grace Annette 859. And they said, inspiration sparks ideas, creativity, influence, the effect that something has. And I thought that was so interesting to read, because inspiration to me is when you're inspired by somebody or something. It's this feeling that you get inside, and it is something that it's hard to explain, but being inspired by something or inspired by somebody, it is something that starts and sparks your own work ethic and what you choose to aspire to be. And it kind of inspires this fire inside of you to go after what you want. And influence is also something that can be positive or it can be negative. And it depends on who or what is influencing you. And I thought this was such an incredible response. Another response was by, I don't want to butcher these names, but I'm just going to say the usernames. Elsie Night Owl _. This one had a multi-response. So the entire thing was, being inspired gives me motivation or ideas on things I can apply to my own life or projects. A healthy influence is trying new products, techniques that I've never would have tried or heard of myself. But an unhealthy influence is picking up habits that are harmful mentally and physically. And it's also peer pressure. So I really enjoyed how that was brought up, because like I said, influence, even inspiration, but influence especially, it's easy to get caught up in the negative connotation of it. If you're influenced by the wrong crowd or influenced by the wrong products or anything that you don't know about, it's easy to be influenced because it's cool or it's trending or your friends are doing it. And you're influenced by that. But you can also be influenced to learn new things. Like it's kind of not bad to say, but I've learned so much through TikTok or just like any other social media platforms. I just think that it's such an easy and accessible way for humans to learn from each other. Even if it's like the silliest of things, like that. There's one trick that was posted like years ago on TikTok when it was first coming up, but it was like the chip clip trick, where you don't have to use a chip clip, but you just like fold the bag and then it seals the bag for you. So it's like little things like that you're like, oh, I don't know why I thought of that, but that's actually really useful. So there's positives to being influenced, and you get to learn from all these different people who are normal people just like you and me, but they bring something else to the table that maybe you didn't think of before, but then you're like, that's actually incredibly useful. So I think that is such a positive thing from it. But like this person said, the unhealthy influence, picking up habits that are harmful mentally and physically, and peer pressure. Peer pressure is very difficult when you're in situations where your surroundings are pressuring you to be something you're not. And there's this little voice inside of you that's like, I know this isn't me. But sometimes it's hard when you're not around a great supportive system or people to tell you it's okay, like you don't have to do this, or you don't have to conform to these habits to be something you're not or somebody that you're not. And it's very important to listen to yourself and to trust your gut, because the only person that can tell you what to do is yourself. So it's really important to listen to your own self and never conform to what society wants you to do or wants you to be. I think from a very young age, I just always tried to remain as much myself as possible. And I didn't let any other outside people or information change who I was on the inside. And even when it came to classes and such, taking dance classes, I never did anything that made me feel uncomfortable or made me feel like it wasn't who I was. I just followed my heart, and that is the number one thing that we can control, is following what we love, who we love, and sticking with that and trusting it. Because as long as you trust yourself, that's what's going to separate you from other people. And so that really sparked inspiration for me, and to really dive deep into, oh, there's positives and negatives to this. And it's really easy to fall into either category. Another response was from, I'm going to spell it out, MERLEJNS. So the inspiration is creating your own ideas versus the influence, which is taking over ideas others may have. See, now this is also, I think this is more on the positive note. Inspiration. You create your own things. You're inspired to do what you love to do. You're inspired to create your own lane, your own path. And people or things can ignite that inspiration for you. And influence, taking over ideas others may have. That goes back to the same thing, where you're watching a video and you're taking that thing that this person is doing because you're adapting it to your life. So you're influenced by them to do that as well. So I thought that was a very nice way of putting it, is inspiration can be creating your own thing, but influence doesn't have to be bad. You're taking over what someone else is giving you, that information. Another response was from KK.Davis, and they said, being inspired is encouraging creativity, but influence encourages adoption of ideals. See, everyone kind of has like the same mindset, but it's really cool to see how everyone words it as well. And another response was from _Likey.EERDEN_. I'm really bad with like saying these names and stuff, but I really want to give credit to where credit is due. But they said, being influenced, you want to copy someone, while being inspired means you make it your own. So again, it goes back into, I think that's the main thing that we're all kind of agreeing on, is being inspired by something is creating your own path, because again, you're inspired to do that. Whereas influence, you're kind of taking over the idea of someone else, and it's kind of like when someone creates a product, but then they tweak it a little bit and they make it into their own, but you know it's that same product, but they try to sell it as a new and improved thing or something completely different. But it gets tricky there. I think with influencing, there's a trickiness to it, because everyone kind of does the same thing, but it depends on how you do it, and also just putting your own self and personality behind it. And I think that's what people are drawn to, is you, the influencer. That's who people are drawn to. They're not drawn to the fact of what you're doing. Maybe they are, but it's more about who you are as a person and what your personality is given and what makes you different than all of the other influencers out there. So it's really cool to see how everyone is kind of differentiating that. And the last one was from Lou.Danza, and they said, for me, it's very similar, but inspiration goes deeper than influence and lasts longer. And I think that's very true, is influence can kind of go away in a flash. It's almost like trends. Trends nowadays, they last 10 minutes and then we forget about them. Or they last a day and then they're never talked about again. Which is just so crazy how much our attention span has decreased. And it's honestly quite insane, because like short form content a lot of people are drawn to because of our attention spans, and we don't like to sit down for hours upon hours just consuming content. Like, I mean, we do, but that's because the content that we're consuming is only 10 seconds long. But being inspired by something, it can leave an everlasting imprint on someone's life. And that's always been a huge goal of mine, is to be an inspiration, because I'm inspired by so many people. And what inspires me the most is being able to see that what I'm doing is helping someone else. And it's so beautiful to see how much over the years I've been able to grow up with people, and they've been able to see me grow and be shaped into the human that I am today. And inspiration never goes away. There's changes and there's growth and evolution, but when you're truly inspired by something, it leaves a bigger impact on your life than you may realize. And it's almost like this subconscious thing where you don't even realize it's there, but it's made a difference in your life. And I think from a very young age, me being inspired by my peers, my family, it all shapes you into who you become. And then you take the reins and you take that inspiration and you create it into your own. And so that comment really struck a chord with me, because I've always thought of myself as trying to become an inspiration rather than an influence. I think, like, again, there's positives and negatives to both sides, but that's always been my goal, is to inspire people, rather than influence them to try something because I'm doing it, if that kind of makes sense. Although I'm influenced by so many people, and that's kind of where I take my inspiration from. And I think it goes hand in hand, influence and inspiration, is even through dancing. Like, I'm influenced by my choreographers that I take from and my mentors, and because I've trained under them for so long, I get inspired, and that's what helps me create my own lane and find who I am and find my voice and find my own lane in dance as well as in life. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed reading all of those responses, and trust me, there were so many more, but I was screenshotting for a good hot minute. And those are just some of the responses that really struck with me. But please feel free to continue the conversation in the comments with other people. And just, it's so cool to hear from others that are just like you, but could be on the opposite side of the world, but you have the same views, or you may have different views, and you're able to talk about it and just learn from each other. And I think we should be utilizing social media in a way where we can learn from each other, because sometimes we get so caught up in the noise of it all that we end up either praising or destroying someone, when we should just be loving and willing to learn from each other. and using it for good. And there's so many ways that we can do that. And I think the number one way to start is through communication. So doing this, it really does mean a lot to me that so many of you guys and so many people were willing to respond, because it's very hard to be vulnerable and to respond and to share your own opinions, because you don't know how someone may take it or if they're going to think the same way. But it's very brave of people to respond to these things, and I truly do appreciate it. So moving on from that, I think that was a great way to end that question that I asked all of you. Just quickly, one of the other things that I asked was what or who inspires you guys? And the responses, again, were very different, but a lot of them were people in their lives, such as family, moms, or even things such as poetry or nature or dogs or movement, music, or a specific person. And a lot of people also said myself, and it's still kind of crazy and difficult for me to wrap my head around that. But like when I say it, it means the world to me. I know it's like such a cheesy line, everyone says that, but it really does. Because a lot of times, I doubt myself, or I get in these ruts and I am like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Or there's moments where I'm like, what is the point of like, what am I doing and where am I going? And so when people say that I've inspired them, it's like, okay, I'm doing this for a purpose. I am here for a reason to give back to people and to share my gift and my love and my passion and who I am. And I think of everyone that I meet or am crossing paths through on social media as my friends. Like literally, I try not to put on a facade or of any sort, and I try to just be as authentic as I can. And sometimes when I don't post, I'm not posting because I feel like I can't be authentic. Or I'm just going through something and I don't always want to share that, so I keep to myself. But I always try to give my authentic self to other people, because that's what I want to receive in life in general. Again, being genuine and honest is such an important personality trait to me. And when I practice that, that's something that I like to receive back. And so, again, all of you guys are like my family, my friends, and I like sharing the goods and the bads and kind of sharing more of myself, because I want to learn more about other people and meet new people. And that's always been such a struggle of mine, is to open myself up to new people and just widen my circle. And so why not do that through social media and just widen your circle there, because there's so many people that you can virtually meet, and you may never see each other in person, but you only got one life, so might as well make these connections with people. And you soon come to realize that we're so similar in so many ways. And I like to create that environment and that safe space for people to like come and just hang with me and chill, you know? And so it really means a lot when I read that people have said that I am their inspiration, because I'm like, me? Why? Why am I the inspiration for this? But I get it, because I'm inspired by you guys and I'm inspired by other people. And I think I'm now accepting that and trying to integrate that into my life and just own it and love it and appreciate it. So thank you guys. And I wouldn't be doing this, number one, if it weren't for any of you guys listening out there. And so it's helped me kind of grow into the strong woman that I am today. So now I wanted to get into some questions that you guys asked me. And again, I really do appreciate these questions because they are so different from anything that I had ever really answered before. So it's really cool for me to kind of dive into that. Also, if you're watching this, I don't know why I'm not sitting on the couch today. I just felt like I wanted to be more comfortable and get a little closer today. So that's why I'm on the floor, just in case you were wondering. Okay, let's go into these. Again, I screenshotted so many, but I think I chose I don't know how many I chose. Maybe 8 questions. We'll see how many I can get through. So, this one. It was from May_C__. Is it possible to feel confident and not confident at the same time? I really love this question because, well, number one, all of these questions are going to be something that I've talked about in this podcast series so far, or topics that I'm going to be talking about in the next 3 episodes after this. So confidence is actually one of them. So I really wanted to touch on this. And also, I've just kind of been in this medium place with this as well. And I would say yes, it is extremely possible to feel confident and not confident at the same time. I think I've felt that before because sometimes I'll feel confident in what I'm doing, but I'm not confident in myself, whether it's with how I look or how I feel or anything. And so on the outside, it may seem like I'm confident, but on the inside, I'm totally internally freaking out. And I think it's completely normal. It's not always visible though. So that's why I feel like a lot of people think it's not possible to be both at the same time. But it's 100% true. And like I said, I felt that way mainly when it came to classes, taking dance classes and everything. I would feel so confident with the choreography and I knew it. But I didn't feel confident in what I was wearing. So I changed my hair 10 times during the class, or it was a different vibe, so the clothes weren't fitting, or I just didn't feel good about my body that day or something. Or the complete opposite. I felt great. I felt like I looked great and everything, but then I completely blank on the choreography, and then I had to go out there and go be filmed, and then it be posted on YouTube for millions to see, and that was the most stressful part. There's some videos out there where I completely blanked and forgot the choreo, and I remember at the time that was the most mortifying feeling. And there were some classes that the choreographers would do a round 2 situation. So the ones on YouTube were the round 2, but the first time that I would do it, I would completely blank, and then I would go home and totally freak out and just cry and be like, I messed up, it's the end of the world. But now looking back at it, I'm like, it really wasn't, because we were just taking class to train and to get better and to learn, and filming came last. That was the last thing we did. In these classes, we dance for 2 hours straight, and then we do groups at the end after we're all completely dead, completely tired, sweating, kicked in the face, sore and everything, and then we have to do it full out, performing for the camera. So there's a lot that goes into it before the actual take, but we only do it once. So it's not like we're rehearsing in front of the camera and waiting to get the right shot, and then, oh, maybe the camera missed this angle or cut out this person. No, it's we go out, it's shot, and then that's it. And then sometimes choreographers will do a round 2 situation, just to get it in our bodies and have fun if we want to redo it or just film with our friends or something. But most of the time, it's just you go, you train, and then it's just captured as this moment afterward. And I think it's so cool to like watch back all the videos and see yourself grow up. But that's for another time. I hope I answered that question correctly. The next one is from Kaycee_76. And this one is about a topic that I had mentioned in my introduction about what I've gone through. But it's something that I am still on the way to opening up to by the end of the series. And I wanted to answer this question because I thought it was very important for me to start talking about it more. And they said, who was the first person you told and helped you with your eating disorder? And I mean, number one, my family were the first people to know, obviously. They kind of knew before I did in a way, and kind of brought it up to myself because it was this thing that I didn't even realize was happening at the time. But who was the first person I told? I'm not quite sure the first person. I'm going to have to think about that and come back to it. But I did only tell probably like 5 people outside of my family, and they were the only ones who knew about it. And then it wasn't until like a year later I started telling more people. But again, I don't think I ended up telling more than maybe 15 people. I kept it very small, and I think now that I've kind of spoke upon it more, I'm opening up to more people about it, and obviously everyone who listens will know about it. And so it was a long process, and it was a hard thing for me to accept. So I think the first people I told were people that meant the world to me and I trusted, but also that I was always around. And if I canceled on them or I had to do something else or go to a therapy session or something, I didn't want them to think I was icing them out. So it goes back to that whole communication thing of that's kind of where I started to open up more. And it honestly helped me so much as soon as I did tell people that I trusted and that I was close with. So I'm definitely going to dive more into that as the series goes on and everything. But thank you so much for asking about that. And another question asked by Lauren_Rose_Faye was, how are you mentally now? And what are my thoughts now on my own journey and recovery? And I really appreciated you asking how I am mentally. I always like to check in on people too, so it's really nice to be asked that. And mentally, honestly, like mentally, I feel a lot better than I did for the past few years. Like I still have my bad days. I still have all that stuff. But I think when it comes to like mental health and everything, I've been doing better. I don't think it's something that you ever get over completely, but you just learn how to cope with certain things. And so I think I can finally say I'm in a place where I try to take every day, day by day, instead of trying to plan ahead or look at the past or be disgusted with myself or stressed out about something that's not even happening and creating false realities. And so I think once I stopped doing that and I just kind of lived every day for the day and just embraced where I was, I've been a lot better. And so I think I can do a lot of reflecting now. Something that I really want to get back into doing is more journaling. But journaling in a way where I'm telling a story, and it's like I'm narrating a story instead of jotting down what happened, but it's more like I'm narrating my life. And I was inspired by something. I watched Pamela Anderson's documentary on Netflix, and I thought the inclusivity of her journals and her journal entries and how she was speaking, and it was more her narrating her life instead of jotting down, oh, I did this today and this is what happened. It was more like her telling a story. I really loved that, and I want to try that out, and I think that's something that maybe other people can try out. But I really was inspired by that as well. This one is from Paul Inham RTNS. And it says, have you ever minimized who you were just so that people would not think, ew, she's so confident? And I really wanted to answer this one because I found myself, and I find myself minimizing who I was, but I don't think it was because of other people. I think it was because I, in my mind, had already had this picture of, if I do this one thing, people are going to think I'm cocky. Even though nobody was saying that, I just completely guarded myself before anybody could say that. And so I don't think I've minimized myself, but I think I've sometimes not embraced my full confidence because I was worried I was going to cross that line into cockiness. But I think confidence is something that people are drawn to. When someone can just 100% be who they are unapologetically, and also be humble with that, it's something that is a rare personality trait, but people are drawn to it because they want to aspire to be that. And a lot of people are, including myself, are drawn to people who are that because we want to be it ourselves. And I think that's where the influence comes from, is when someone is being something that you want to be. And yeah, I find myself a lot trying to still find that. And I think it's hard when you're someone like me who is a people pleaser. So it's hard to kind of break out of that. But you have to please yourself before you can please anybody else. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's see. Oh, yes. This one was from Maria Just Dancer. And they said, do you still have social anxiety at times? Does dance help you deal with it and feel more confident? I 100% have social anxiety. It's gotten worse over the years. Why? I don't know. It just kind of like threw up on me. And like in a lot of social situations, I think it depends on the group of people I'm with though, because I adapt my energy to whoever I'm around and everything, but I definitely do have social anxiety when it comes to situations that are new to me or I'm not exactly 100% comfortable with. But what's crazy is even with like dance classes and stuff, I have gotten like full on panic and anxiety attacks before going out and filming at the end of class. And I don't know why, because I've done it for years upon years, and it's nothing new, but I just put this added pressure on myself because I feel like I always want to keep improving, but then I have to remember, oh, it's just class. Like, I can just be me and mess up, and it's completely okay, and it's not the end of the world. But I think when I was younger, I would put this pressure on myself, and if I messed up, it was the end of the world. So that's kind of carried with me throughout the years. But dancing, it does help, but in a way, like, I get social anxiety from it as well. But when I'm able to dance when I'm going through something, it is such a beautiful outlet for me. And that's where also my love of teaching has began to grow, is because, again, I love to teach when I have something to teach. And a lot of times that comes from when I want to just create an environment and share a moment with people who may be going through something, positive or negative, and just have it be something to let it out and scream, but through our bodies. And I think that's where the confidence comes from too, is when you could just let yourself go and fully immerse yourself into something without having to think about it. As soon as you start thinking, you're taken out of the dream. You're taken out of the reality that you're creating in your mind. So I think it's very important to let that go. Let that perfectionism go, and you'll truly be able to find yourself. And I'm saying this for myself. I think when I speak it out, I'm able to understand it as well. So I'm going to take what I just said and apply that into the next time that I dance or I teach or I do something else. And I want to control my social anxiety. Weirdos.wonder asked, how do you find inspiration without copying others? So tying back this inspiration thing, I find inspiration from people. And I think that is that. I find inspiration from people because of who they are. I look for and I'm drawn to who people are on the inside. And when someone's able to take who they are on the inside and express that through whatever they're doing, that's what gets me inspired, because then I can adapt that to my own way. Because again, you have to remember, no one of us are alike. No one is like you. You are the only you out there. So when you're able to be inspired by someone who is truly themselves, you could adapt that into your own thing and still make it yours because you're different than them. So I think that's where I find inspiration, is through people and through who can truly be themselves through and through, from the inside out. Yeah. And I had to answer this one. Tiffany _JINNN asked, what products and ways do you do your curly hair? It's a little messy right now because it's a little late, but I had the honor of creating my own curl cream because I have naturally curly hair. And over the years, I've dyed it and I've damaged it, and it's so bad, and I'm still trying to revive it, and it takes years for that to happen, especially after straightening it for 10 plus years straight. No pun intended. But I created this curl defining cream called Evolove, EVOLOVE, which is a palindrome that spells forward and back. I think that's the right word. I think I'm using that right. And it's literally the only thing I use, aside from, like, on my off days, I'll use like a reactivator spray or like a hair oil or something to make it less frizzy or soft or whatever, but it's the only thing that helps my hair be defined. And whenever I wear my hair natural, that's what I use. And even when I don't, when I use it to straighten it and everything, it just makes it so soft and healthy and has maintained my hair in that way. And I can see like at the back of my neck, there's like little curly cues. I used to call them floopies because of Phoebe. She would use that name. But these little floopy curly hairs, like they're getting revived, and there used to be only like one or two, and now there's like a good 12. So it's really cool to like see that process and to have been able to put a little bit of myself into something like a product that helps people embrace their natural hair. Because for the longest time, I've spent so much money trying to find what product works for me, and I've given this to my friends too, and this is not an ad whatsoever, but it's just something that I'm so passionate about and I wanted to share, and I hope that people are inspired or influenced to try it out and everything. But everyone who has tried it loves it, and my parents use it all the time, my dad uses it all the time, and it's just an overall product that I've used to feel more confident whenever I do wear my hair natural. And I try not to straighten it very often anymore. So it's very useful, and I run out of it very quickly. And so I wanted to answer this last question and just kind of tie in the inspiration and influence topic of today. And this is from Ash_THOON. And they asked, how did your peers in dance influence you growing up? People your age versus older people. So, because dance has been such a huge part of my life, that's where I have been inspired by people the most. I think number one, my number one inspirations has always been my family. And especially my mom, but everyone in my family in their own ways. So my mom has been there from day one, and she has inspired me through how she raised us, her kids, and everything. And I'm very grateful to have grown up with a family like them, because growing up, I never felt like I had to hide anything, or never felt like I had to be something that I wasn't. And I just was always told to follow my heart and to do what I love and to just work hard, and never take anything for granted, never take the easy way out, and just keep going. And they really taught me that, and they always stuck by my side. My dad is so incredibly hardworking. He works so hard, and it's inspiring to see whenever he has something in mind, he does it right away. He doesn't procrastinate, and that's something that I need to still get better at. But it's very incredible to see someone in your life do that and have the success that they want. And my siblings, we all do different things, and it's so inspiring to see how they've been able to grow up. And to be the youngest out of 3, I'm very blessed to have been able to grow up with older siblings so I can watch them and how they navigate through life and ask them questions when I got older and everything. And very grateful for that. As far as in dancing, I had so many influences growing up. Whenever people ask me, who's your greatest inspiration, it's always a difficult question because there's not one person. I think there's been so many people who have inspired me along the years that have shaped me into who I am, including myself. I think you can say that. It's like you can be inspired by yourself. And I'm inspired by my younger self when I watch back videos and I see how much I've grown. Like, I'm inspired by how hard that I've worked over the years. But I'm someone who has always, again, trusted my gut and didn't conform to uncomfortable things or situations. So I trusted people who believed in me for the right reasons, and vice versa. And so the people that I was inspired by have truly shaped me into the dancer I am, where I take inspiration from, and who I take inspiration from. And I'm always a student first, and I'm always on a journey of learning in any aspect in my life. And I've been inspired by people who are my age, but also people who are older than me. And again, it goes back to I'm more inspired by the person than I am by the dancer. I think if you are not a genuine person inside and out, it's very difficult to be inspired by that and to adapt that into your own life, because you have to ask yourself, is that what I want to be? You could be the most incredible person in any work that you do. Not the most incredible. You could be the most incredible, like, artist in the work that you do. But if you're not equally as genuine, then does it have the same longevity? Is it going to last as long? Is it an influence that you are putting upon people, or are you an inspiration? And I think I'm going to leave it right there, because I think that comes full circle. And I hope that people take away from this the positives and negatives to both sides, and everyone has their own opinion, and it's very, very cool to see all of the responses and how different they were, how articulate they were, but also how in the end it was very similar, and everyone has a similar mindset. And I think this just the start to something so incredible and beautiful, and just the start of a conversation. And we're all human. We're all probably like around the same age and everything. And just never stop learning from other people. I think we can always learn new things, whether we adapt it into our lives or not. You only have one life, so why not learn as much inspiration and be a sponge and absorb it all and use what you believe in. And so I really hope that you guys learned more about me, and thank you again for all of these questions. I really want to continue this sort of Q&A thing. And if you have any other questions for my upcoming guests that are coming on to this, follow my Instagram at Kaycee Rice. I had to do one plug. I'm sorry. And I hope you have the most beautiful day, and just keep being you, as I am just going to keep being me. Normally, if there was more people, I would say just being we, but it's just me today. So have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next week.